everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a build and review of the Santa Cruz Electronics, their tool rack that goes for the 770M. I know they make it for the MX series and the PC NC series as well. I ordered one of these through eBay. I know they do have a website, but I purchased this through eBay, and we're basically going to do an assembly and a review of the overall quality of the item, and then see what it looks like on the machine. I have off my side here, this is what I've been working with. Off the side, a little stand next to it with a little tool rack that came with, that I purchased with the Tormach. But it's such a hassle. It's another piece of furniture in my limited space workshop that I have already. So it would be really nice to have the rack mounted to the machine. Even though I'm building an ATC, if you're following along with that, you're still going to have a need to have a tool rack because your ATC is not going to carry every tool that you would have in your arsenal. So anyways, let's get started on the build, and let me get the camera set up and then we'll get started. All right, welcome back. All right, we have the box. I had opened it up, but I have not removed any of the contents from the box. I just wanted to verify this is what I got today. I get a lot of packages for the most part between me and my wife. Anyways, so far everything looks to be wrapped up very nicely. So we'll just break this all out. These look like the tool rack trays, and then probably some more trays. And I'm going to assume side panels. So we'll move that out of the way. Clank. Two side panels. The finish looks great. It's definitely a gray. I'll put it up against the machine here in a little bit and we can see it. As far as a match, it looks like a match, at least from a distance. And our hardware. And you can see Santa Cruz Electronics, their emblem on there, and the hardware is taped to it. The tape is on there good. All right. And it looks like another tool rack and a blank tray there. So it looks like you get a total of 3 tool racks with there's 6 times 18 per rack. So a good amount of tools can be held in place on here. So what we'll do is I'll take you from here and we'll put it up against the machine so you can see the two colors next to each other. All right, here we are with the machine, and here is the colors. Now, bear in mind, this is a completely flat surface, and it's nighttime, and I have my shop lights on, so you could potentially get, a different color, but to my eye, it looks pretty darn close to be able to tell the difference. See if I can try to get it. Yeah, there you go. As you can see, I think the color match is it's right on there. So yay for matching the color. So great for Santa Cruz on that. Okay, we are back. All right, I was going through the hardware. It's a mixed match of hardware. It's all standard at this point. Being that the machine is mostly metric or preferred metric, but I'm not here to bash that. My next thing is there's stainless with a mixture of standard zinc plated Phillips head screws. Preferably I'd rather them all be of the hex socket style screw, more to match the hardware that's on the machine, but the hardware looks decent. So at this point, what we're going to do, there's no instructions that come with this, so you kind of got to feel it out for yourself. This being the top would mount to the top of the machine. and I'm assuming these hole spacings are matched to the machine. So before I put any of these, I will put this top plate on, and I'll put the bottom shelf in place, and then set it up on the machine and determine where I want my tool changing racks to be held, and make the determination on how to set that up. So anyways, we'll get this assembled right here. Okay, we have the top and the base plate put in place. On the bottom, let's see if I can turn it here where you can see it. It has a secondary hole position here. So that is because the bottom tray is slotted, so allow you to tilt the tray if you want it to have an angle, or if you want it straight. So if you wanted angle, you would use this hole. So I'm going to go in the assumption. So you'd be able to get, a much higher angle, and you'd want the top hole if you want it flat because of the actual degree of angle that you can add to it. So you'd want to have it like that. The hardware is, like I said, it uses a Phillips head style screw and a 5/16 wrench. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this and put it up against the machine, determine where I want my trays to be, and then we'll assemble that. Okay, the tray is just setting on the machine, so we'll take you up to the top. You're going to need a step stool or some sort to be able to work on, unless you're like really tall. So on the top you have these slotted holes. They do line up with the existing hardware. You wouldn't be able to butt it up completely flush to the surface because the top screws up under here. So, but you do have adjustability, so we'll be able to at least push them pretty darn close, and then it would leave you a light gap right here at the top. And then, like I said, you can angle this tray, so we'll be able to at least, once we get it bolted in place up top, we'll be able to put a level on here and get this bottom tray leveled, and then determine where we want because there's a barrage of selection to put your trays. So we have a total of 3 trays to put in here. I will probably start up in here, go to the next one, skip one, go down one, and then come down here, because I do have a compression tapping head that I'd like to be able to store in the bottom. So okay, we're back to the table, but I wanted to go ahead and point out, this is, the steel used in this is nice and thick. I don't know what the actual gauge is. I want to say we are showing basically 90 thousandths. Now there is powder coat on here. It is a powder coat finish, which is really a nice touch. So we'll go ahead and get the trays, get them started and installed. Bear in mind, none of the screws on here are tight yet. I'm going to wait till I get the thing completely assembled, and then once that is all done, then we'll be able to go through and check and do the tightness. I want to make sure that it's bolted to the machine and everything's squared up. So we're just going to run everything finger tight at this point and go with it. So I will do a little speed motion here and get these things installed. Okay, we already have it setting in place. I went ahead and took the liberty in the aid of speeding up this video a little bit. But right now it is roughly set up. We'll go over the top and I'll show you what it looks like with the screws mounted in there. As you can see, I have it right here. As I noted earlier, there is a gap because this plate hits those screws. It would have been nice if there was actually a hole cut out so you could actually slide this completely flush, but definitely not a deal breaker. That way it would allow all of this to come together. You could theoretically have a hole here and a hole for this other side, and put some like foam padding tape on the back side so it could completely set up against it. But as you can see, I have the screws loosely put in there, and it allows you to adjust these trays however you wish as far as your height. I'm going to double check again. I may end up moving this one up here, but I'm going to run a couple of my tools My really tall ones, like my 1/2 inch right here. Let's just see if it'll fit and how it'll be. You can see it gets kind of snugly there with the taller bits, especially if you had to reach all the way in there. I think it's definitely going to have to go to the very top. I am vertically challenged, so henceforth I was wanting to come down a little bit lower. So we're going to go ahead and move this tray to the top position. And as you can see, for the rest of it, you have a good amount of clearance that you could allow for setting the tools. The center tray would be the one to suffer by doing it any other way. Okay, we have I went ahead and got my level, so I could level this lower tray to be, in line with the machine. I guess you could eyeball it, but we got it leveled. He said you'll need a 5/16 wrench and a large point Phillips head screwdriver, and you just go through and snug these all up. So we're going to do a little speed motion here, get these all tightened up, and we'll touch base when we get to the top. All right, so we are done with doing these. We have the last two. I've already, as I noted earlier, went ahead and tightened this to the actual enclosure itself and to the top. These are a 7/32 as far as the Allen wrench size goes. And being I didn't grab a wrench, but I did have a crescent hammer handy, we will go ahead and tighten these up to complete the project. I need to loosen that up and then tighten it. There we go. It is kind of movie, I guess, at this point, but once you get a bunch of weight of tool bits in there, it should be good to go. Okay, we're going to add this in later after I got this done. I realized that I had some neoprene single-sided foam tape. This is like 1/16 inch thick. I'm going to add it to the back side of here to help with padding it against that and keeping it more of like a non-skid, anti-slip, so this thing will be a little bit more stable. So we're going to get this added and we'll be right back. Voila, it's on there. We have our neoprene tape on there. Like I said, it's only single side sticky, but it provides a nice rubbery protection to the surface finish of the machine, and maybe potentially keep it from being able to slide around as easy. So let me get this bolted back on and then we'll wrap this thing up. All right, we got it back. We got it bolted back in place and all tightened down. And I have to say, it made a huge difference on movement. So I'm pushing on it pretty rigorously and it's much more stable. It's not when before it was doing like this, pretty easy, and you could hear it just scratching up against the paint. Adding that neoprene foam tape was a plus. I'm hoping that Santa Cruz Electronics watches this and maybe provides that in the kit. I think that is an actual nice feature, and it provided a lot more stability, and it protected my original investment surface finish. In the end, my impression, the color match is awesome. The ability to put a multitude of tools in here, I believe it's 54, is nice. Having the flat tray is nice. I think that an addition for myself is I would probably put a piece of non-skid style like rubber sheeting down here on the bottom to keep this from parts being able to easily slide on it, so I could set more intricate tools on there if I needed to. The ability to move the trays wherever you need. I think the usability of that is great, but for the most part, many of your tools are going to be excessively long. You're going to have very few short tools unless you're using all tiny bits. I do use a lot of tiny end mills, so there would be plenty of room for that with having the shelves down a little bit lower. But when you get to the longer cut end mills, or for instance the compression tapping head, that I so happen to have right here with a collet already in place. So you can see, just installing it, even with that in place, I'm gonna have to go out here. And I most likely will not keep this in this anyways, simply because of the length of the item. So I'll keep it in the case that it comes with. I just happen to have it setting out because I used it before. As noted, once you have, like this 1/2 inch with an 1.5 inch cut, there's plenty of room to set that in there. My 2-inch face mill, there's plenty of room. Set it right next to it. Yay. All right, so the finish is awesome. The thickness of the material that it's made from, the steel, is very generous. I guess those would be my pros. The adjustability, as far as being able to put the shelves, it's a pro. I think a neutral for me is the standard hardware. Should be metric to match what's pretty much in the machine. I know a lot of people, you Americans, we want imperial on everything, but in a dynamic society that we live in, metric everyone else in the world uses. I prefer metric myself. So metric hardware would have been a plus. Stainless throughout would have been a plus. But I'll stick neutral. That's not a deal breaker for me. I like this tool holder. And as I noted before, maybe a piece of rubber down here on the bottom. But for the most part, that is it. This is the Santa Cruz Electronics tool caddy or tool rack for the Tormach 770M. Like I said, they make them for the MX and the PC NC versions of the Tormach machine. Anyways, thank you. Please like and subscribe. Follow us along for our other projects that we'll be doing on the Tormach. Anyways, have a good day.